Don't expect much editing in this video because the game I'm talking about doesn't give me much to work with, and that's part of the problem. To be clear, I'm not talking about the game you're currently seeing on screen, Garo Mark of the Wolves, though it will come into play later on. I'm talking about Blazing Strike, an upcoming fighting game whose handling has left me so annoyed to the point of writing this video just to get all my feelings out about how much it annoys me. For those unaware, which I'm assuming is most of you, Blazing Strike began life as a Kickstarter campaign in 2019 that failed to reach its funding goal, but was then given new life when it was picked up by Aksys Games. Not Aksys, the Guilty Gear people, though funny enough, Aksys did help Aksys publish Guilty Gear games in various regions during the X2 and Zerd eras. But yeah, Blazing Strike and Aksys, that's what I'm talking about in this video. And before we go any further, I want to make something very understood. All criticisms levied in this video are directed at Aksys, not Blazing Strike's developer Rarebreed. To repeat myself, I am criticizing the publisher, not the developer. So, Blazing Strike, what is it exactly? Reading directly from its website, inspired by classic arcade fighting game series from industry greats such as Capcom and SNK, the upcoming 2D fighting game from developer Rarebreed Makes Games is Blazing Strike evokes the excitement and nostalgia of 2D pixel art genre pioneers while incorporating a unique game system with modern mechanics. No, I did not misquote that. I read it as is straight from the site Aksys set up for the game. They made the grammatical or formatting error, not me. So Blazing Strike is a return to the retro with a modern flair, assumedly built for fighting game fans who haven't been jiving with fighters in a post-Street Fighter IV landscape. At the time it was announced, there weren't many games on the market like that. It was hitting a sect of the fighting game fanbase that was underserved at the time. This was during the period of Street Fighter V doing great harm to the landscape that Street Fighter IV's immense popularity had fostered, Tekken 7 making controversial changes to their legacy systems, Marvel Infinite's failure at launch, and a general sense of get with the times or get out toward fans of a different vintage, especially when things like Fightcade weren't nearly what they'd become. Just for reference on the Fightcade end of things, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, one of the biggest games on that platform, wouldn't get rollback netcode until 2 years after Blazing Strike's Kickstarter. The only ways to play your retro favorites at the time were through re-releases that often didn't come with good netcode. Looking at you, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. So to say that Blazing Strike was hitting a wide open market is a spot-on assessment. The only notable game that was targeting the people Blazing Strike was Skullgirls, which, for a variety of reasons, did not go as mainstream as it could have. If it had released when it was originally slated to, fall of 2022, Blazing Strike would probably be one of the bigger games at tournaments not named Street Fighter, Tekken, or Mortal Kombat. It fit the bill of a rugged-looking retro 2D fighting game a la Third Strike, CVS2, and old KOFs. Better still, it would have been releasing into a pretty stale fighting game market that could have used a shakeup. Fall of 2022 was when all the major titles were winding down their current releases. Street Fighter 6 was almost a year away from coming out, Tekken 8 was over a year away from coming out, and we were exactly a year away from MK1. Guilty Gear Strive was the only major game to get out their next entry before Blazing Strike was slated to hit the market, and it was doing exactly what Blazing Strike could have hoped for, dividing its fanbase and disenfranchising older players with its modernization attempts. People wanted something that felt older, without the clunkiness, poor netcode, or lack of features present in older titles, and that's what Blazing Strike was marketing itself as providing. And then it got delayed for reasons that remain unclear. Its new release date was set for spring of 2023. And as you can see with the lack of Blazing Strike footage in this video, that did not fucking happen. You know what did happen though? The two worst things possible for Blazing Strike that weren't directly in their control. The indie fighting game scene grew up really fast, and emulation of retro fighting games did the exact same thing. The second point is easily understandable. Want to play those classic fighters you love so much? Now you can. For free, with rollback netcode. I've spent more time on Fightcade this past year than I have with any modern fighting game not named Guilty Gear Strive. For many players, Fightcade is where they spend most, if not all, of their fighting game hours. But with indie games, my criticism may not be as obvious. If you're a longtime viewer, you've seen me cover a variety of indie fighting games. It's where I really found my groove as a video maker. I know enough about indie fighting games to not make the claim that they're all targeting a retro revival sort of market. Some are. Hell, Dojo Masters is even trying to revive the Karate Champ bend of fighting games, and it's one of my favorite games in a long time. But I wouldn't throw games like Murphite or Arcus Chroma under that same umbrella. Those two, along with many other indie fighting games, are paving their own very interesting paths. There have been a ton of new IPs in the fighting game space thanks to indie developers, and they all seem to understand that to pull players away from the major new fighting games and the improved emulation of older fighting games, they need to price themselves lower, significantly lower. Fighting games are a social experience, and without a healthy amount of players online, most people won't see any value in buying one. From what I've seen, the average indie fighting game is pricing themselves around $10 to $15, with premium indie fighters on the level of Skullgirls, Pocket Bravery, and Them's Fighting Herds having good success pricing themselves a bit higher at around $20 to $25. A totally reasonable asking price given all the features those three games provide. Those games maintain healthy player bases by knowing that $10 here, $20 there if the game's got a good amount of features, is a monetary risk most people are willing to take on an IP they've never heard of. Blazing Strike, on the other hand, is pricing itself at $40. For a new fighting game IP, that's an insane asking price. It's double the price of the highest priced indie fighters, who themselves are the rare exception in their market, and crucially, it's the same price as many major fighting games when they go on sale. And here's something I remembered while working on this script. The base version of Guilty Gear Strive now goes for $40, and it goes on sale for $20. That game is still getting new content. We're in the middle of Season 3. The day I wrote this script, Abba got revealed as the next DLC character to a very large positive reception. So to make my criticism clear, Blazing Strike is not pricing itself in a way where someone can reasonably take a risk on it. Imagine you have $40 and you're looking to get into fighting games. Immediately, you have Guilty Gear Strive. If that game doesn't look like your sort of thing, you can see the prices of Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, and Mortal Kombat 1 and reasonably assess that when they go on sale, they will be within your price range. So you put one of them on your wishlist, wait for the sale notification, and probably don't think about other fighting games until then. But let's say you want a fighting game at that very moment. $40 can get you a pretty solid collection of indie fighters to just try out. For example, you can get Murfight, Duelists of Eden, Nair, and Mega Knockdown for a combined $40. All of those games have rollback netcode. Murfight gives you a taste of how the genre normally plays, while Nair, Mega Knockdown, and Duelists of Eden show you how the genre can be adapted in a variety of ways. Their low price makes them low-risk investments. If they're not your thing, you only spent $5 to $10, not $40. So if you're new to fighting games and you only really know the big names, you'll probably be willing to wait until they're on sale unless Strive strikes your fancy. If that's not the case and you find yourself perusing smaller fighting games you've never heard of, why would you choose Blazing Strike over, say, being able to get both Pocket Bravery and Them's Fightin' Herds, or the 4 games I laid out earlier, or any combination of other low-priced indie fighting games? And that's assuming you want to spend all of that $40 on fighting games. If you just want to get a taste of the genre, you can get Murfight for $11 and get a really complete fighting game with a story mode, combo trials, rollback netcode, and a really good training mode at 25% of what Blazing Strike costs. If you're just looking to try out the fighting game genre and can't afford the bigger titles, why would you take a risk on a game priced near them when there are other fighting games priced much lower? And at the same time, if you can afford the newest, biggest titles, you're probably just gonna buy one of them instead of giving Blazing Strike a second look. These major titles are guaranteed to have a wealth of players for you to learn against, while a completely new IP most certainly is not. $40 for Blazing Strike prices out the casual player from trying a new IP on a whim, while invested fighting game players will be in no rush to pay that premium price when they can just wait for a sale while lower cost indie games exist. That's on top of them being able to play their favorite retro fighting games on Fightcade, which is free. So you price out the casuals, and the retro player market you were angling for has more options than ever to get that retro feel at a significantly lower price. At this price point, who exactly is this game reasonably expected to appeal to? And yet, I still think they might have been able to get away with it if they released in the spring of 2023. People were still excited for Blazing Strike. There were still people talking about it, hoping it does well when it comes out. $40 would have been a reach, but I don't think it would have been a death nail if it had come out a year ago. And then it didn't. In the worst possible way. It begins at the start of 2023, where with the release date coming closer, there's a stark lack of promotion being done to amplify the game for when it finally comes out. And then, it doesn't. Spring of 2023 comes and goes, and no Blazing Strike. Worse still, there's also no word from anyone associated with Blazing Strike on why it didn't come out on time. Aksys doesn't say anything, and they still haven't with regards to what caused this failure to meet the set release date. We only get word in the summer, and it comes in the form of a vague, very non-committal sounding letter from the game's developer, who was likely waiting for Aksys to let him say something about what caused the delay, and yet we still know nothing. Many people took from this letter that the game was basically dead, stuck in development hell. We wouldn't hear anything more until February of this year, but in between those two drops of info, I made a video where I talked extensively about Blazing Strike, and in it, I made the point that I believed Blazing Strike's biggest threat at this moment was City of the Wolves. It's targeting a similar audience, but with the legacy of two of the genre's defining series behind it, King of Fighters and Fatal Fury, along with being the sequel to Woah, Mark of the Wolves, one of the most praised fighting games among people deep in the FGC. Told you this footage would come into play later on. Well, guess which game just started getting promoted with a big trailer that has the FGC buzzing? Yeah, City of the Wolves, and they've come packing their own version of modern controls to make the transition for new players as seamless as possible. For clarity, Blazing Strike has never advertised the addition of such a control setting. It began development before Street Fighter VI came out and made modern control settings a popular thing in the genre. So if you're a longtime fighting game fan, your attention's likely taken by this long-awaited sequel to one of the best games in the genre. And if City of the Wolves doesn't price itself at like $100, that's a joke, SNK, don't fucking do that. Why wouldn't a new player just wait for it to go on sale? If City of the Wolves has even decent netcode, it's guaranteed to have a ton of players for the new player to play against. Plus, there's a controller setting to make their entry even easier. So again I ask, at $40, who is Blazing Strike really marketing itself to? Trick question, it's not marketing itself at all! Back to what I was talking about earlier, how we wouldn't hear anything about Blazing Strike between summer 2023 and February 2024, here's what we got in February of this year. Blazing Strike was included in the Aksys reveal showcase, All Aksys. Clever name. In that showcase, we saw nothing new from Blazing Strike, just the same old trailer we'd been seeing since 2022. We were also given a tentative release date, summer 2024. According to the developer in the Blazing Strike Discord, that equates to May. Not to be an asshole, but summer doesn't start until June 21st. But May, let's take that for what it is. So what is it? Very close, and yet we have not gotten any new promotion for this game from Aksys. Not even a fucking Steam page for people to find out about it accidentally. Go on Twitter and search for Blazing Strike. You'll see that I'm the only person talking about it. Even the dev is dead silent. What the fuck? Without putting any blame on the developer, because having seen how developers get treated lately, looking at you, Maximum Entertainment, and how you destroyed them's fightin' herds by firing the entire staff, then releasing DLC characters that were unfinished and broke the game, I'm left completely dumbfounded by how Aksys has handled Blazing Strike. But it gets dumber. Let me explain. By making this one video, I have officially released more original content about Blazing Strike than Aksys has since 2022. That's a true fact. Now I bet all of you are thinking that I hate Blazing Strike, that I want to see it fail. But if that was the case, why would I be talking about it? If I wanted to see it fail and it wasn't advertising itself, why would I give it free promotion? Or to put it in other terms, if there's a restaurant that I want to see go out of business and it doesn't tell people it exists, why would I spend my time putting up signs telling people where it is, even if those signs are negative? Just by the law of averages, my actions would convert some people into paying customers purely because they're curious to see if the restaurant is as bad as I'm claiming it to be. I know how this game works. Even negative publicity is still publicity. So let's make this perfectly clear. I want to see Blazing Strike do very well. I criticize it so heavily because I believe the game is sabotaging itself in very preventable ways that will hinder it extremely. Lack of communication, lack of publicity, things that you need to get right, and with the resources present in a publisher the size of Aksys, shouldn't be hard to get right. I would love to help in promoting Blazing Strike. I even emailed Aksys' public relations rep asking if I could get some kind of sponsorship from them to make videos about the game, detailing the variety of content I planned on making about it, everything from gameplay vlogs to character guides to combo videos and so on. I would do that promotion for them if I could. Hell, look at all the conversations had about Blazing Strike in public forums in the past year and a half. I've started like 90% of them. I'm basically Aksys' marketing team for this game already. Seriously, let me get my hands on Blazing Strike. I will make videos that make it look good. Ask any indie fighting game dev that has given me a key for their game. I've got a proven history of that. I want to see Blazing Strike do well. I want to main the hell out of Mochizuki. I want to help foster a community for this game. I just wish Aksys felt the same.